Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack 4 Business Podcast. Over 200 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack 4 business truly is?
Welcome to the Season 3 of Knack for Business Podcast. Today's topic is Unleash Your Retail Power, How to Propel Your Shop to Prosperity in a Challenging Market. Your hosts are Bernie Fransbrook from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate Ewing. So what can you expect from the Knack for Business Podcast? We aims to help you find your feet in the business world, whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for a while. We have something for everyone. In each episode, they dive deep into a particular area of business and explore the ins and outs of that subject. They interview guests that are experts in their field who share their success stories and their experiences. They offer practical tips and advice. Our guest today is Warren Smagaren from Warren Smagaren Consulting. Warren is a seasoned retail and real estate strategist with over 30 years of executive experience spanning North America. As lead consultant of Warren E. Smagaren Consulting, he is renowned for his integrity, innovative solutions that drive sustainable growth for business, corporate retailers, franchisers, franchisees, and real estate landlords. With a 360-degree vision and deep industry expertise, Warren has built a trusted reputation among over 150 retailers, real estate owners, developers, and institutional landlords. His strategic approach to growth, divestiture, asset value improvement, recognition, and renegotiation has delivered results in diverse sectors, including high-profile RFP wins at Canadian universities, hospitals, and transit systems in both Canada and the U.S. Warren's academic credentials include executive management studies at the University of Bath and a Bachelor of Arts from McGill University. He's also served as a program advisory committee member at the Centennial College of McGill and remains an active McGill alumni member. Warren, welcome to the Knack for Business podcast. And do you have a favorite quote or saying, sir?
Thank you for having me, Bernie. I would probably say my favorite quote is, fail to plan to fail.
Good strategy. So speaking of strategies, what are the biggest challenges faced by retailers today, especially in the small franchise space?
Well, Bernie, there's a fair number of challenges out there today facing all retailers, but the small space retailers, one of their biggest challenges is actually finding available space. The smaller space is always at a premium, and that's one of the biggest challenges, actually finding the space.
Would you say that when government here in Ottawa, the government wound things down courtesy of the pandemic, and so you had a lot of retailers that were downtown? Has that also influenced retail across the board everywhere? That offices, people coming by and shopping?
Ever since COVID, the overall retail landscape has changed significantly. I would say that the downtown cores of all the major markets are still being impacted by the people working from home and there being less pedestrian traffic. That certainly continues today.
Warren, you are a consultant, and you're a consultant on real estate strategy. Do you have a brag about a store took your strategy and made a success? You maybe you can mention the name, maybe you can't, but the actual strategies turned all the way into making the cash register work?
I could tell you in my career, I've done a number of initiatives from A to Z. One of the strategies that I had success on was in the convenience space, which had significant changes pre-pandemic, where reading materials, newspapers and magazines were fading away. Everything was going online, even well before pre-pandemic. And there was a need to reinvent the merchandising model as well as placement of these convenience spaces. So after a thorough review and research of the market, convenience was and is very much an impulse, instant gratification purchase. So the need to move into more beverages and more snacking became the replacement for the magazines, periodicals that were going online. So through that exercise, you change your merchandising mix to move into more in the F&B category, food and beverage. And you need to look at the retail strategy that will marry with that, which traditionally a lot of the stores in the space that I was working in were in large office towers, shopping centers where people had time to shop, especially in shopping centers, and they would pick up magazines and pick up books and those types of things. That shift now was moving into where do you go where you have a fast-paced environment where people want to grab a snack or a beverage. And that movement went from predominantly opening bricks and mortar stores and shopping centers and office buildings to moving into the more institutional arena like colleges and universities, where students are always looking for beverages, always looking for snacks, and you're getting into high volume locations that are very much targeted to your product offering. So that would have been the biggest area where we took something that was, for lack of a better term, dying due to the movement to online business and becoming, or at least staying relevant to the marketplace.
One thing that, based on your background, I'm really interested in, I'm guessing that in a win, you work with franchisors. I'm guessing that in a win, franchisors are seeing the people more as partners and the people they're working with than someone who's just a client for a licensing agent.
Absolutely. When you're dealing with franchise, your franchisees are your partner. They're the frontline people that are operating the stores. They are following and working within a system, but they are the people dealing with the public, and they're the ones that are driving the growth of the business. So it very much is a partnership.
So when I'm going to go back to the independent operator, and you have like large retail, anything from the grocery chains, et cetera, because you can get your food and beverages there. So where the small retailer is located is a key of essence, because time is of the essence for the clients for impulse shopping. How else can a small mom and pop shop or a small business, it doesn't have to be small. You can have a sporting goods store, right? That's family owned. How do you compete against the big stores, the big box stores?
I think there's a series of things that an independent can do. I think if we're looking at an independent who's in business and established, there's certain criteria that they need to follow to, again, stay relevant. Now, especially today, we've moved into the digital era. Technology is moving faster and retail is really moving at a rapid pace towards more AI driven models. Omni-channel those are critical components to retail. So the independent needs to be able to offer a better service, because service is going to be and continues to be a critical component to any retailer's success. Consumers are much more savvy now. They're much more knowledgeable when they go into a store, because they have the ability to research things online and they know more, they demand more. So the independent, they themselves have to have a very high level of service. Their existing staff, they need to be well-trained, and customer service has to be at the forefront. For them to focus on pricing, that's always going to be a challenge because it's an economy of scale. But the independent has to look at ways like their service offering, if they can, different unique marketing initiatives on the micro level. And those are ways that they can compete. If it's a startup independent, and for them to be able to get access to better real estate, they need to be able to understand that their store has to look a certain way to attract and make a landlord take them serious and be interested. So it is a double-edged sword because capital is a challenge for a lot of independents, but the key for them to be successful is they have to be professional in the appearance and they have to provide a great level of customer service.
So do you find that price point scale matters, right? If you have 1,000 stores, you can buy a product cheaper, but it doesn't seem to be translating when you go into a grocery store and you're looking at something. Then you hear other backstories, you have the competition bureaus kicking in about different topics. And I don't want to go down that path versus an independent person, right? Would it behoove them then to buy from the local market? So let's say it's bread. Let's say it's produce. Is that a niche that's better? And sometimes the thing you're extolling is they're getting a better value. You're getting something, supporting local economy, plus probably a better flavor.
Well, I think so. The independent, Bernie, has the ability, because they're independent, they can do what they want when they want. So it's a much more flexible model in the sense that they can buy from where they want or where it's available. But when they're looking to open a store or an existing store, they have to be very cognizant of the competition and what the competition's offering in terms of their offering and their price points and their own marketing initiatives. So everything really is data driven, and understanding where there is opportunity is also a really important factor for an independent to be able to successfully open and sustain themselves.
When you're looking at industrial real estate, a lot of what's there, whether it's a hospital or college, the infrastructure is 50 years old and possibly so is the mindset. How hard is it to get past the status quo to revision a space that would be a fresh canvas?
If we're looking at an institution, you're dealing with process, and unfortunately, it's a challenge to bypass process. When you're able to participate in RFPs, which are requests for proposals, you're putting together your offering and what you believe would be best suited for that particular institution. It's always a challenge when you're dealing with people that have been in a role for many years and are following the rules which they need to follow to the T. It's incumbent on you as the retailer, whether an independent or a new fresh offering, to present your case as to why your offering is something that would be new and fresh and desired by if it's a college university, by the student population and the faculty. So a lot of this has to do with really the data analytics and understanding what the consumer today wants, because ultimately that is going to drive what the decision makers ultimately accept.
So when you're setting somebody up for success, whether it's an independent or even a franchise owner, they say, I want to put in a fast food joint here or footwear, clothing, apparel, etc. How do you get, because the other part of the journey is the business itself, selling a product, on how you distinguish yourself from everybody else, and location matters. Now, how do you structure the deal and the arrangement with the landlord? Typical leases are 5 and 5, a 10-year total, 5-year renewal or variations of that theme. And sometimes landlords will give you concession so that you can sign a longer term. In fact, they might even pay for some of your upfit costs. is embedded inside in the lease. How do you structure that so that it works? It works for the landlord because you don't want the landlord ticked off 3 years down the road, and at the same time for the guy that's or gal that's starting up the business.
No, from the landlord perspective, actually, things have changed significantly over the years. There was a time when landlords would offer options, so shorter terms with options to tenants, and that changed over the years, where landlords are now more in favor of offering longer initial terms without options. And the reason is, quite frankly, the options are in favor of the retailer or the tenant. And the landlords, because of all of the opportunities to develop, to expand properties, whether it be vertical growth or other, they want to have more control over their spaces and control the terms. So the option side of things is becoming less and less available in retail leases. With respect to the how to set it out for a tenant, the tenants themselves they need to be equipped with their own site assessment work first. So the tenant needs to understand where they need to go. And when they understand where they need to go, that's where the journey actually begins. And that's where all of the research starts. So it's quite a lengthy and detailed process for a franchisee or an independent. But from the onset, the independent is not going to receive all of the benefits of fit up contributions that national names or franchises would from landlords. A lot of that has to do with covenant. A lot of that has to do with the brand and the strength of the brand. So the positioning that a retailer brings forward to the landlord from the beginning in terms of their business plan, what their offering is, what they're planning to do in terms of their capital expenditure, how the store will or is perceived to look, the use that's going to be provided, all of that will blend into how the lease and the tenancy ultimately gets formulated.
Bernie and you, both of you have a background in institutional space, but looking at retailers, are there other spaces that are fresh things that you're looking at? What's new in retail? What spaces are being re-looked at or looked at new?
On the retail side now, you're seeing a lot of existing strip plazas, existing community and smaller, what are now considered regional malls, where they've got surplus land. They're turning those types of properties into mixed use properties, where retail is now moving into a live work type of environment. A lot more condominiums, as we know, have been built over the last decade. The ground floors of the condominiums are offering a lot of retail amenity spaces. These are the new types of retail that are out there. As we see more and more of the combination of online e-commerce business and bricks and mortar, there are a lot more retailers are looking for secondary locations to support their infrastructure. But I would say that the condominium development retail side and the live work side are the two areas where you're seeing the most retail growth now.
As the economic squeeze comes on, whether it's interest rates not coming down fast enough, cost of goods going up, fuel costs going up. Fortunately, it's gone down a little bit now. What strategies do you advise then to a retailer?
No, the first thing a retailer has to look at is their footprint. They're paying rent on every inch. They're building out space, and the cost is per inch. They need to be able to merchandise every inch. So the first thing is retailers really have to take a good look at the footprint to see if they can reduce the size of the locations, All of these costs are going up, as you point out, in terms of build out, labor costs, the costs of money to finance capital expenditures. So the biggest way to combat that is to look at that footprint, look at what you're selling, look at the merchandise, and look at your margins. Products are moving fast, higher margins, add more. Products that are selling slower with lower margins have to be dispensed with quicker. So there's a lot of tactic has to go into the rationalizing of space from the product side right through to the space requirement size. And those are ways where the retailer can lower their costs going in, lower their costs while they're operating, and enable themselves to be more profitable.
Warren, you mentioned work-life balance or work-living balance, and we look at a university or a hospital could have 10,000 employees, which is more than some small towns. Are we going to come at a time where there's going to be a shoe store in the hospital because that's where everyone is walking to and from?
Well, I can't see a shoe store or fashion having a major impact in a hospital type setting. A big part of retail is the environment, and the environment needs to be conducive to the consumer. There's also the element in the institutional arena, like a hospital, where there's need. And I think we have to distinguish between want and need. And in the hospital environment, clearly there's a large employee base. That employee base, in many cases, is time restricted. So nurses, for instance, they work long hours. They have short time frames for their breaks and for their lunches. So whatever offering on the food and beverage side you have in a hospital, you have to have it where it's quick service, where the employees can access quickly. You also have to have a lot of value driven operations, because you have to think of the income levels that are the employees of these type of captive environments have. So I think we will see more diversity in the hospital and the college setting, especially as our demographics are changing significantly. We're a multicultural society. We're going to see different types of nationalities opening different types of cuisines and different types of beverage bars and beverage offerings. I think there will be different service providers. But just to dovetail this, I think that the hospital environment will be conducive to certain areas. And I think that's the way it will go, but it will expand in that area, I believe.
So when you go and let's say I want to open up a shop, got my business plan, I know what I want to sell, I have a market, I know there's enough to sustain the business. And if maybe found a location that's ideal based on where my customers are and how they're the movement pattern, whether it's a bus stop or like you said, at the base of a condo. But to get set up, is there an ideal funder that covers these type of projects? Or is it specific to a type, like one's a convenience store, one's a clothing apparel store, one is a fast food place?
All of the commercial banks have loan facilities. If you're looking at a small independent business, there's the small business improvement loan facility that the government offers, the banks offer, whether it be the BDC offers these types of facilities to independents, which allows them to get started. And they would have the criteria that they need from a candidate to set up their business. But there are certainly facilities to help businesses get started from all the institutions. It doesn't matter if it's a clothing store or a footwear store, food or beverage or convenience. Some banks are more apt to deal in the convenience and food space, but in general, we're very regulated in the banks. So the five major banks and BDC, they would look at all business models on their own merit and fund them accordingly.
Warren, just for the audience, what is BDC?
BDC is the Business Development Bank of Canada, and they are it's a crown corporation that was set up to assist Canadians in their financial needs.
Thank you.
When you're helping someone work a proposal and you're tracking costs and there's future sales, how do you deal with economic forecasts that are based in something that is not blue sky?
I think when it comes to forecasting, there's a lot of data available. And I think the historic data that people can look at. So if you're looking to, what I suggest people that are looking to open a restaurant, the first thing that they themselves should do before even looking at a consultant is to educate themselves as much as possible. There are groups like the Canadian Restaurant Food Association that has all the matrices, industry standards on costings, projections, independence. If they're looking for franchisors, although under law, they're not allowed to provide projections, they do provide information on their franchises, which allows potential franchisee to make an informed decision. I think to avoid what you say about blue sky people, there's enough information out there for people to work on, and that would enable them to stay with realistic expectation.
In retail, 4 years ago, there was a pandemic. And the government says, you're not allowed to shop. You're not allowed to even open your door. We'll throw you in jail. And many people went to some version of online, some good and some not so good. And then there was hybrid, a bit of both. And some have eliminated online and gone back to full feet in the street. And some people are doing hybrid. Do you have any hybrid success stories that they've done a good job of attracting both markets?
I do. One of my clients now is a health and wellness retailer that is in the bricks and mortar business, but has also created an e-commerce platform, which is built off of Shopify, and it provides a dual opportunity to create the sales online, as well as having a funnel of new customers into their bricks and mortar. So that is a way independents today should know that there's help is available. There's opportunity with companies like Shopify who have ready built systems where people can develop at low cost their own website. Now, a website and an e-commerce platform are only as good as the information on it and how you're utilizing it. And that's something that I tell all my clients. If you don't work it, you're not going to get results. So the marriage between omni-channel and bricks and mortar it's crucial that the communication between the two are the key element. If you have customers today and someone walks into your store and they say, oh, I've got to run. Do you have a website? Do you have an e-commerce site? I have no time to spend today. If you give them that information, say, yes, we're at www.blank and click the shop button and you can purchase exactly what you need and all the information is there. I think those are critical elements of a retailer's success today. Communicating between the two.
So as we move forward in time, what do you see happening on the retail market in the landscape 5 to 10 years out?
So on the retail side, we can definitely expect technology to lead the way. With artificial intelligence and omni-channel retailing, we're going to see much more robotics involved in retail. We're seeing it already on the service side. Some restaurants are even having robotics act as greeters and servers. And we're going to see more of that, which is going to force bricks and mortar retail to be higher level of service, improve their efficiencies. And we're definitely going to have more of an online presence complement the bricks and mortar. And retailers are going to be more selective in their retail locations. I think that the continued emphasis on the 5 Ps, placement, promotion, are going to be, they're still cornerstones of retail, but now we're moving into the communication age and being able to communicate between bricks and mortar and online business, but crucial for the success of retailers going forward. On the real estate side, the landlords are continuing to have to provide the experiential types of environments. They have to provide places where customers have easy access. Customers have the ability to interact and be able to work within these environments. Like I alluded to earlier, the live work environment and facilitating people's lives are going to be right in the foundation of development on the real estate side going forward.
Warren, in order to be the best it can be, what do you want other than a checkbook? What do you want from a client to make it work?
Commitment. Retail is about commitment and a love of people, a love of sales, and the passion, be able to withstand the good times, getting through the bad times. It's really about all those elements, especially the commitment.
So Warren, as we're coming close to wrapping this up, first off, what are the key highlights you want to impart to the person's looking, I want to open up a store? And what services do you provide to help them make that happen?
So I would say to anybody wanting to open up a store, don't do anything in haste. Take your time. Know what you want to do and where that passion comes from, because you're going to need to love what you are looking to do. For me, I offer full service. I can support from concept inception. If you have something that you don't see on the market, I could help you flush it out to evaluate if the concept can work, where it can work, and how to put the business plan together from its inception right through to the presentation to an institution to get capital if you need capital. And if you're looking for franchise, I can help you from A to Z, from identifying the use that you're looking for, the type of franchise, where you are ideally looking to open your business, in what area, and help you right through the financing side, the development and planning side, right through to all of the documentation, review, execution, right through to your openings.
What areas do you cover? Do you support? It's just North America?
My focus of effort is in Canada and the United States. My home market is Ontario, but I've done work in every province.
Warren, this resonates with our listeners and they want to talk to you. How do they get a hold of you?
You can look me up at www.warrensmagaren.com. I can be reached on email, warren@warrensmagaren.com. And my phone number is listed as well on my website.
Thank you to Warren Smagaren, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If this resonates with you, if you're looking to start up a business space, retail, you're in active retail, Warren's your go-to agent to reach out to. To reach us, info@Creative Insight is the email address, info@KreativeInsight.com. The website is creativeinsight.com. And how can folks reach you, sir?
Best way is my website, motivateyou.ca, MOTIVE, the numeral 8, the letter U.ca, and my email is wayne@motivateyou.ca.
If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Javan Strika from Adhive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.